As a confidence coach in Calgary who works with businesses and individuals, I have seen that confidence looks different for everyone. In this podcast, we explore confidence through the eyes of our diverse community, redefining it one conversation at a time. Welcome to Confidence Redefined. I'm your host, Alyssa McMasters. Today, we are thrilled to welcome Josie Balka, a poet who calls herself the happiest sad girl you'll ever meet. You may know her for her viral poems that have resonated with millions, even catching the attention of celebrities like Kim Kardashian and John Mayer. After moving to Calgary, Josie became a beloved radio personality and now co-host of the morning show with Greg and Josie on Country 105. Blending her passion for songwriting and announcing, she became the closet poet, sharing heartfelt reflections on love, friendship, and body image with a growing social media audience. Today, we'll dive into her journey, exploring how confidence and viral success have shaped her work and her self-image. Please welcome Josie. Josie, how are you doing today?
Good, how are you?
I am wonderful, and I am so excited that you are here. Of course, your name is Josie, but many people watching might know you as the closet poet. How does it feel?
I always feel like that's a weird name, and people might get confused when they hear it, but yeah, I like to do poetry in a closet.
Yeah, and how does it feel to you that people might actually know who you are?
I have like a little bit of imposter syndrome.
Okay.
I've worked in the public for so long too. Like I've been on the radio for 10 years. So I'm kind of used to being out there. So I'm used to being public and like appropriate and knowing that I might run into somebody, but it's been very strange lately more so.
Yeah, I bet. Okay, so let's tell the story. So for people who might not know who you are yet, I wanted to share why I wanted to bring you on this podcast.
Okay.
And talk a little bit about confidence. So Josie, you've been doing poetry for a long time.
Yeah.
But you started posting it on TikTok and Instagram, and it totally resonated with people.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you why I think it all resonated, and then I want to hear your point of view too.
Okay.
I think your poetry had such a vulnerability to it that I think a lot of people talk about past things that happen. I think you talk about very present. I also think that a lot of poets that I know, or even you think of the classics from long ago, they just don't really connect with people as much because it's not what they're going through anymore. You're talking about things like body image, like breakups, like being in new relationships while you still kind of are a little bit obsessed with your ex. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Real kind of things that we are going through today. I think people find it really refreshing to hear a really vulnerable stance from situations that are almost still real.
Yeah, I really appreciate you saying that that's why you think people listen. And I feel like it might be similar just because it's funny. I'll write about something that I don't think anybody else has ever been through. And then I'll be like, oh, and it's kind of sad because I'm noticing now that I've done so many, a pattern of which ones do really well and which ones don't do as well, which ones resonate and which ones don't. And the most sad ones always do, but they're about the same topics every time, like somebody who didn't treat you well, or your body image, or lack of confidence, things like that are always the ones that skyrocket. And obviously it makes me happy when something is successful, but it also makes me sad that those are the ones that people are like, oh, me too. And I'm like, oh no, come on, be more confident.
Yeah, and it just gives so much feeling that I think people aren't used to, especially on Instagram, TikTok, where a lot of stuff we get is kind of negative stuff, or we're comparing. You very openly go out and say, hey, there's actually nothing to compare because I'm actually not that girl either. Even I don't feel like that girl. And you have a poem that ends with, I wonder if that girl even thinks that she's that girl.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's very girl. A lot of them are very girl based. And I have a book coming out, and in that book, we've tried to kind of take out too much I'm a girl and here's what I'm going through and make it a little bit more broad. But I'm noticing that it is predominantly women who are feeling that way and kind of coming to terms with me at the same time about the way that nobody is actually that confident. I mean, you might be because you've worked really hard.
I've worked really hard to be, but no. And that's the thing. Confidence is something that is such a great topic because we all struggle with it. And even though I am extremely confident because I have worked really hard at becoming so, there's still times that I don't feel great. There's still times that I don't like my body, that I don't like my life, that I'm comparing to everyone else around me. And I think we all do that, but we all pretend that we're not.
I think it's really always interesting, and this is why I try to make an effort to go out of my way to talk about lacking confidence and things not being as they seem, because whenever I see other people do it, it makes me feel a lot less alone, because it's always people who you never expected would have an insecurity. And one that really resonated with me recently was, do you know who Molly Carlson is? She's a high diver, professional high diver.
Yes.
And she has like a Brave Gang thing, and she's super body positive. And she posted the other day about how she hasn't been sleeping well, so she's been super bloated in her bathing suits, and it's been really difficult for being in a bathing suit to be her job. And I was like, well, yeah. Why? Like, you look amazing. You know, that was and I was like, the fact that you woke up this morning looking like you, got in your bathing suit and thought, oh, I wish I didn't look like this in my bathing suit today. I was like, that's so meaningful and powerful for you to say, because it just goes to show that literally everybody goes through that.
We are all in the same boat.
Exactly.
And again, I think you can tell me too what you think. Our society has tried to make women hate each other, right? For years and years and years, women are supposed to be against each other. There's only 10% of women are CEOs, therefore only 10% of women can be CEOs. Yeah. Where instead, I think our generation is now seeing, well, if I actually make more space, there can be 40% of us.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think we're starting to see it's not me versus you, it's actually me with you, and we're starting to lift each other up. But in order to do that, we have to find our similarities and our commonalities. And I think that's what your poetry does so well for girlhood.
So one of the first poems I ever posted that didn't actually go anywhere really, like a few people saw it, was for the Barbie movie. So that movie came out and I saw it with a girlfriend, and then I wrote something, and I literally pulled my car over on the side of the road after dropping her off after we saw the movie, and I started writing things down. And then I was like, I'm going to put this on the internet. And I think that was one of the first ones that I actually put up. Not that many people saw it, but did okay. So that was my first one that I was like, but that was the girlness of it. Yeah. Watching that movie like broke my heart, but it was so good. Every minute of it was perfect. And I think that honestly started this like whole girlhood culture that we haven't had in a while. And I've never put this together until right this second, but I actually think the Barbie movie was part of the reason that I started doing this whole thing.
I love that. Yeah. And I also am interested to know, when you said it did pretty good, I don't know how many people watched it. At the time, it popped off.
For me, at the time. Yeah.
Now you look back and I was like, oh, okay. But at the time, that like felt like a really big thing.
Whoa, 500 people like that? That's crazy.
That's huge. Yeah. That's great. Okay, so before we kind of get into the viral side of it, I want to go all the way back when you started writing poetry. How old were you? What did that look like?
I don't know. Like, I'm not sure. It was never really poetry writing. It was always kind of songwriting. So I just love writing music. And I always am very, it's more common for me to like put it in a song. And that's always been a really good outlet for me. I've probably written 500 songs in my life just for fun. But like, I remember when Zach Bryan released an album. I don't really remember which one. I feel like he releases albums all the time. But there was a poem that started it. Not the most recent one, but a different one. And I was like, oh, a song, but it's a poem. And there's music in the background. And I honestly, thinking back to that too, I'm like, maybe that also is like you can do that. That works. So for like in this realm, it was kind of just songs, always songs. But it was funny because once this all started happening, one of my friend's moms reached out to me and was like, do you remember when you read that poem to the whole school in grade 5 and everybody cried? And I was like, no. And she was like, we knew right then. And I was like, what? Anyway, so it's kind of funny to hear that it felt very full circle. I was like, oh, I didn't even remember doing that. So I guess I have been writing for a long time, like since I was a kid. Yeah. But I just never... Yeah.
And I'm interested to know, how do you think when you say like, okay, I can actually do that? You hear Zach Bryan being like a poem in the beginning. How do you listen to your kind of own inner voice to be like, okay, I like that. Okay, I want to do more of that.
This is one thing that I literally can never explain to anybody. It's so weird. It's like my only talent. And it's like just that it's like this is gonna make me sound like
I can't wait.
Literally feels like a waterfall. I swear I didn't do anything before I got here, but it feels like a waterfall is like pouring into my brain.
Okay, so I call it a download because I just like download information.
Yeah, it just comes in and it comes out. It's like it just like pukes out of me. Like I can't explain it. Like it's so weird, and I usually will be sitting there and I'll think of one line or one idea and be like, and then if it doesn't come to naturally, like if I can't finish this whole thing in 10 minutes, it's not happening today.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
So Do you think you've always had that ability, or do
Yeah.
you think you've gained it?
No, always.
Okay.
I've always written. Like, I was so weird. When I was like 5, I was writing songs and like carrying around my little tape recorder and writing weird little things. And I've always been really fast at rhyming and poems and like making up weird parodies and raps. And like, it's always been literally the only thing I'm good at. So
Okay,
it's
this
always
is
been there.
so fun.
Yeah.
That's exciting. For me, like when I get those downloads, I've had that for a long time. However, I kind of had to build it because I wouldn't trust it. I'd like have a thought and then I'd be like, oh, that sounds dumb. Did you ever have that? Or do you trust yourself?
I
from the
think
beginning?
I don't trust myself at all, ever. But I do think that it's just something that enough people don't realize. Like, no one's there with you. No one's going to go through your phone. No one's going to check your notes app. You don't have to put it on TikTok. You can film it. Like, nobody's going to think you're stupid. You can't embarrass yourself in front of you because it's you, and who cares? You're going to forgive yourself. You have to. You're stuck with yourself forever. So, like, there's no reason to push something aside because you think it's stupid, because no one's ever going to know unless you tell them. So if I start writing something, sometimes I'll try so hard for like 45 minutes, read it back, be like, that's so bad. And then I won't delete it, but I'll just leave it. Sometimes I'll go back and I'll be like, actually, that's pretty good. And sometimes I'll go
depending
back and be like,
on
that was
where you
really
are in your life.
bad. But nobody will ever read it. And I usually go and like present my stuff to my boyfriend after I'm done, like I'm a little kid being like, listen to what I wrote today. And I just won't do it with the ones that I don't think are good.
Okay. And I love this because you can this is kind of like journaling too, right? Like if you like journaling, I have some clients who like journaling. I have other clients who like making podcasts. So I actually will have them like write down or create a podcast on their like phone microphone, and they can listen back to later. Right?
Oh, yeah.
We don't have to share it with people.
No.
And I think that's so important. It's really nice to get thoughts out of our brain into different ways and different creative forms that people don't have to see. And if we decide that we want to let people into that world, then we can make that decision later.
Exactly. And it comes with anything. Like if you want to try stand up, you can write a 5-minute set and just perform it for your dog. Don't even let your dog hear it. Do it in the shower, like whatever. Nobody needs to know. And you'll sit there after it's complete, because you'll never know unless you complete it, and be like, well, that's pretty good, actually. That's pretty funny. And then also people might hate it, and then it won't work. And then if you care what people think, you can stop. And if you don't, you can keep going. So it just like, you're literally never going to find out unless you try. It's so funny how many times I've thought, I'm not actually going to do that. And then I've done it, and I was like, oh, I'll just try it. And my favorite story that like resonates with that is, you know who Noah Khan is?
Of course.
So like, I remember him posting that Stick season. He posted it on TikTok and he almost deleted it because it wasn't getting very much traction and nobody was really liking it. And then he left it, and he literally became a world famous person, and all of the shows he was opening up for sold out. And then he got to go on his own tour, and he like blew up. And if he deleted the video, he never would have. And I think that that's great. And that's not going to happen for everybody.
No,
but it's crazy.
And not in the same way, but I bet that actually something like that might happen.
Yeah.
How do you decide what is ready that you want to share with the public?
I'm very, very sporadic. Most of the things I post, I wrote them 10 minutes before I post them.
We love that.
I have no plan, which is, I'm actually starting to like have anxiety about how little planning I've done. Like I started a podcast and then I did 5 episodes and then stopped because I just was like, actually, never mind. So, but like I write and then I go into my little closet and I record it 5 minutes later. And then I sync the audio and I edit the video and I post it all within like a 30-minute span, like write, record, post.
And what sounds so exciting about this is kind of like you jump, right?
Yeah.
Here's my example. If I go ziplining, I can't just like wait there and like think about it. I have to like go immediately, right?
Yeah.
This is kind of that version of just jumping. Yeah. And sometimes that analysis paralysis is what makes us like stop and really think about it.
Don't think
too
about
much.
it. Just do it.
So yeah, just do it and see what that feels like. And then after, if you feel yucky about it, maybe don't do it again, right?
Yeah.
But if it feels really good and you feel like you're really sharing something and you feel like you're being very creative, that's a really good advice, is sometimes we're allowed to just jump.
Yeah. And if you feel something that you want to try, like just do it. If you want to be a singer, just sing and record it in your phone as a voice note. And if you listen back and you're like, that sounds bad, I don't like it, then don't put it anywhere. Delete it. Never do it again. But I would encourage that if you felt passionate about it for a long time and you think you do it once and it's not that great, don't actually never do it again. But this is going to sound so like Nelly Furtado, but the only way to know is if you just try.
Release your inhibitions.
Feel the rain on your skin. Like I can't explain it any
That's
further.
the advice of the day.
Yeah.
So I'm going to tell you the themes that I kind of see in your poetry, and then I want you to tell me your main themes.
Okay.
Okay. The themes that I see are body image, relationship, and friendship.
Yes.
What else do you see?
Nostalgia, I think, like just like longing, I guess, for things, which can also fall into friendship, lost love, past times. I love the past. My friends make fun of me for it. My co-host at work is like, you need to get over your other, like, he's like, I know you love the past, but like, what about right now? Like, are you only going to love it later? And I'm like, yeah. I'm going to miss yesterday until it's tomorrow, and then I'll miss today. But I'm never here. I'm always just like 5 steps behind.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I want to kind of talk about each of them. So I want to talk about body image, and I want to talk about your own experience with your own body image.
Oh.
Okay. Have you always been confident in your body? Do you feel confident in your body right now?
No, never. I've never been confident in my body for a day in my whole life.
And I think just that sentence is going to help a lot of people.
Yeah, maybe, or maybe not. Like it's no, like I've always been like, just like a big girl. Like I'm tall, like people. And the problem is too, whenever you watch my videos, people who listen to the radio, they always think I'm going to be short. So especially now that I'm more in the public, whenever I meet somebody, they're like, oh my gosh, you're so much bigger than I thought you were going to be. That throws me. So everywhere I go, I'm scared now that I'm going to run into somebody and they're going to say that. And I know they mean tall, but I'm like, oh, I didn't know that there was like already a perception, it's just like a really trippy thing. So being in the media and the public has actually made that worse. No one's ever mean, but like it still is part of it. Yeah. But I've always been like taller than everybody in my class, taller than all the boys in school until like the last grade of high school when everybody actually grows. And like I don't even know how to explain it. I just had like a big weight loss journey. Like I lost over 100 pounds, and all through it, like I've said this before, but there's never an end to it, because you like set a goal, but there's no such thing as that, because as soon as you get that, you're going to want to be less than that. And I look back at photos now and I miss the way that my body looked when I hated it. So it's like there's never been a time where I'm at peace with it. And I know that 10 years down the road, I'll look at today and be like, wow, what a waste of you not loving yourself. Because if I could have that body now, like I looked at a photo from 5 years ago, I was like, if I could have that body now, I'd love it. Well, it sucks that you didn't love it when you had it, because you're never getting it back. And like, I don't know, it's a constant stream of discomfort, I guess.
And that's what I like about hearing that, is that there is no end. And the reason I think why is that sometimes we'll focus on our physical appearance and being like, I'll be confident when. I'll be confident when I lose the 100 pounds, right? I'll be confident when I, get a nose job. I'll be confident when I have the Botox. Yep. And then you get that thing and you still don't feel confident. Yep. And then you get the next thing and you still don't feel confident. Yep. So for me, that's why confidence comes so internally, and really working those like small steps to get to a point where you start feeling comfortable with yourself. Yeah. Because we don't have to love ourselves every day. No. We don't have to actually love ourselves ever, but we don't have to hate ourselves either. We can be more of a neutral point as well. We can just say, I own a body. Yeah. Maybe that's enough today.
Yeah. I really like that. That just like kind of takes the pressure off. And it's interesting because like I do talk a lot about like trying to be more confident, like go easy on yourself, like love yourself as you are. Nobody cares about that. People only care about the way that you are, not the way you look, blah, blah, blah. And I mean that. Like I mean that so much when it comes to anybody else. Like I never leave a lunch or a dinner with my friends thinking, I wonder which ones of them did not like their outfit today, or felt ugly, or didn't like the way that their jeans were sitting on their waist while we were sitting there, or are having a hard time with their weight right now. Or like, I just leave being like, wow, that really filled my cup. I love my friends. I feel like crap about myself today, but never thinking that anybody else is. So it's really hard because you dish out all this advice and like all these thoughts and you mean them for anybody but me.
And we're always so much kinder to everyone else around us. Yeah. And there's no way we talk to ourselves the way that we talk to our friends, the way we talk to ourselves sometimes. But I always encourage people just to try. What does that look like if you start saying like, hey, you were so amazing today. Like you totally filled my cup. And nothing to do with, physical, because sometimes that changes so drastically. Yeah. But thinking about how you made yourself feel. Did you take 10 minutes out of your day to like take a really nice bath? Like, yeah, like you took that self-care, my girl. Yeah. That's great. That's great. And I think And tell me how you feel about this. You know, you went through a big weight loss journey. So people see you now and they might not know where you used to be. And they're like, you don't like your body? Because in their mind, you have a great body, right?
Yeah.
For what they want.
That's the hard thing too. And I've actually learned a lot. Like I at one point I couldn't wrap my head around like why posting before and after photos can be like a damaging thing, and why saying I used to be like this, but now I'm way better like this, because I just was like, well, why? It's my achievement. But you can have achievements and like be proud of your stuff without actually bringing anybody else down and being like, oh, that's bad actually. Because then someone who's that, like, who looks like that is like, wait, why is that bad? And I find that I try now to like avoid those things in a way, unless I'm kind of approaching it from like a very specific way, because I feel like you just have to be so careful. You never know what anybody's been through. And I don't know, like, I think about just the way that I feel and how triggered I'll feel if somebody starts saying like, I hate girls that do their eyebrows like this. And I'm sitting there going, my eyebrows are like that.
Totally. And being a woman in a bigger body, when like I have like a smaller woman saying like, oh, I look so fat, it can be triggering for me sometimes.
Yes.
Now, I also want to talk about the other side. I have a lot of women who are straight size that I work with who are like, I feel like I'm not allowed to say I don't like my body because I technically fit into clothes. I technically look good, but I still have a really hard time living my body. I also want to give some space to kind of recognize that you can have a hard time with your body image no matter what size you are. And just because you're straight size doesn't mean that you don't have a space to be challenging your confidence.
I also think that like we live in a time where it's kind of frowned upon to want to change, because it's like, well, it's like a body positive world now, and which is amazing. And you should want to just love yourself as you are. But I also don't like the idea that you're not allowed to change anymore. Mm-hmm. Like, you are allowed to want to lose weight if that's part of like your journey and what you want. You just shouldn't do it because somebody else made you feel that way. And I think that that's something that I've struggled with, being like, okay, so I'm not allowed to say X, Y, Z. And it's kind of thrown me for a loop where I've fallen into like a loss, I guess, with my own health and fitness, being like, well, I'm just being positive about my life. I need to eat this, or like, yeah, of course, like I'll take this. And it's just kind of become a thing where I'm like, I had a moment where I thought I'm not allowed to actually want to change because it's like illegal now, right? Like, we're supposed to love ourselves. And it's kind of actually taken a toll on my mental health. And I'm trying to come back to this middle ground where I'm like, you can love yourself as you are. You can love yourself while you change. Like, there's so many ways to go about it. You don't have to stay how you are just to be positive about yourself.
Yeah. And I call this podcast Confidence Redefined, because the first step is defining what confidence means
exactly.
to you. Does it mean feeling better in your body and just feeling more active? Does it mean nothing to do with your body? Does it mean that you want to feel, one of my favorites is sitting in a meeting and saying no, and then nothing else after that. Right? Sometimes that's like my clients kind of what defining confidence means, right?
I want to do that.
Yeah, like try it. Like let's do a little. Can I have some of your water? No, I know.
You're like joking. I'm like, no.
No, but if you want it.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so defining what confidence really means to you has so much more than just to what you look like or what you feel like. It has to do with like your own values and figuring out really what that means to you against society's standards.
So this was like one of the most interesting perspectives for me, was that after I lost all of the weight that I wanted to lose, not all of the weight, you know what I mean? I had a bunch of excess skin. I got a plastic surgery done on, it's called a body lift, like in the front and back of you. And then I almost died from it. I got sepsis, and like, it was awful. And then I remember laying there being like, we couldn't just accept yourself. Hey, now you're going to die. And then I lived, clearly. Here I am. And I remember being like, okay, so I look like I wanted. That's gone. I found a new problem. I found a new thing that was my biggest insecurity. And then I also was still in the exact same mental state. I was still struggling with the same things. I was still having the same mental health. I was still falling into the same patterns with relationships. And I remember I literally went to a therapist and was like, okay, I thought that I was going to be happy now. Like, that was like, I got, like, the body was it, right?
And there actually comes a lot of grief is the best feeling I can use, of you've gotten to the point that you want to be at, And now you're kind of grieving this person who you thought you would be at that point.
Yeah.
There comes a
100%.
lot of really interesting dynamic feelings that come up with that I don't think we talk about enough. We just think, okay, now they've lost the weight, they must be so happy. And that's just like not the case for most people.
I also even find that like I'll get jealous of girls who are going through a major weight loss because I'm like, this sounds so weird, but I'll be like, I missed that. It was so exciting. Wow, I'm jealous that person's doing that surgery that I did. I want to do it again. Like you want to like go through things again because they were so pivotal in your life. And I'm sure people go through this when they're like having a baby and they see another person be pregnant when they know they're done being pregnant, being like, well, I want to do that. I want to have a baby again.
Isn't that interesting?
So it just, you want it back, even though it was really hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I kind of want to segue that into like looking at other women and, wanting that. And let's talk about your like first really viral poem, like the one that like went like crazy. We'll talk about who reached out. And the whole premise, and actually I think we're going to probably play it here. But the whole premise is you've never looked at someone at a pool and decided like they didn't look good in their bathing suit.
No.
Right.
I can't remember anyone I've ever seen at a public pool with such a memorable body, good or bad, that I think about it ever again. I've never been enamored by an attractive person in a bar or at an airport enough for them to grab my attention more than just the once. I've never thought, I wonder if that woman's jeans are a bigger size this year than they were last year. I've never sat at a table at a party and repeated a story about the way someone's arms looked in their tank top or which notch someone had on their belt when I saw them last. When I talk about my friends, sometimes I will bother to note that they are beautiful, yes, but I will list the things that make them that way. That they're funny and thoughtful, kind and caring, strange and lovely. Not that their frame is small or their clothes are expensive. Because it is one thing to want to be looked at and another to want to be known. I cannot wait for you to meet her, she's in such good shape. Doesn't roll off the tongue like I cannot wait for you to meet her, she's so nice and funny. You are going to love her. Some things are here to stay and some things are bound to go, and I promise you from the deepest part of my soul, you will be remembered for the way that you are, not the way that you look.
What was your favorite line of the poet?
Try to remember it. I would say, I think the public pool thing was actually the puller, and I'm actually really happy that it started with that because I don't know if it would have had the same impact if not.
Yeah.
And I guess like the point of it was that like, yeah, somebody will see you, but they're not going to remember you. They're not going to go home with a story about you. You're not going to make them feel any type of way besides for a single moment. Yeah, if somebody loves your body at the pool, you made them maybe feel like, oh, for 1 second. But if somebody knows you, you're going to make them feel a million times more than that for a million times longer. And that's what actually matters, is like the feeling that you give people and the way that you are, like the way you look compared to the way you are. Like there really does come a time where all we have is who we are. Like that's literally it. Gonna be it at the end of this for everybody.
Yeah. And we focus so much on being perceived. We're always like, someone's perceiving me at this point, that we kind of forget what it feels like with people who already know us and that real like connection that they get from us. And sometimes I think it's also the patriarchy. It's their society who's made women try to put all of their worth into looks. And from my perspective, I'm seeing kind of the younger generations starting to move away from that to an extent. We also have a lot more comparison because we have social media and there's still a lot of issues. Yeah. But I'm also seeing some really positive signs the other way too. And I think poems like yours that have really resonated with people are one of those things that are helping girls really start realizing that they are allowed to be whatever version of them that they want to be.
Thank you. That's really nice of you to say.
Yeah.
And I think it's an amazing thing. Like obviously social media can be really detrimental to mental health. It's addictive. I never sleep. I'm always scrolling. But that being said, I can go look at 20 million girls with the same body as me, try on outfits, and like know that outfit's going to look like that on me, or that this store sells my size, or that like this girl has the same legs as me. I don't really see that very often. Like, I like that world. I like that you can go look at like a mid-sized clothing haul and see the clothes that you want, the outfit you want, the haircut you want on somebody who actually looks like you.
And a real person that looks like you, and they're not, hopefully not photoshopped and not edited.
I mean, you don't know now.
We don't know nowadays, but hopefully we say that. So when this poem, so you post this poem and then 4 hours later, you all of a sudden, who was it first? Got a DM by John Mayer?
No, I don't know. Okay, no. I actually don't think it was that one that was him. I think that one was on New Year's Eve. I was at a wedding. Chrissy Teigen shared it on her story. And I was like, what? And then I went to her Instagram and it was like, follow Chrissy Teigen back. And I was like, I'm going to throw up. And like, I actually think the craziest thing that happened was from that was also the same thing happened with Kim Kardashian not long later. And I was like, and I messaged them and they answered me being like, yeah, nice poems. I was like, I'm going to throw up on your face.
Were you like trying to be cool? Like,
I accidentally said their full name. Like I said, hey, Kim Kardashian, hey, Chrissy Teigen, hey, John Mayer, like full name them. But it has been like, I was just like mostly in disbelief. And I actually, this is going to sound weird. Cause also I don't know if we like, I don't even love talking about that part of it. Like I'm
interested to know why.
So I think working in the industry that I work in, like I work in radio, I've gotten the opportunity to interview a lot of people. And I think over time you become desensitized to like, I think that people who are famous like work really hard for it. But I also think like, I mean, like, I don't know. I'm not better because Kim Kardashian watched one of my videos and she doesn't know me and I don't know her. We're not friends. So it's like, I just feels braggy kind of.
Okay.
And which is fine. Like, but I guess to me over time, talking to so many people, you kind of realize that everybody's just having a human experience and some people just got elevated along the way and have more money and more fame than you. So like, they're not better than you. They're just really good at something. And like, I feel like I've kind of come down from glorifying certain people, except for Taylor Swift. If I ever met Taylor Swift, I would throw up. But everyone else, I just have come across this like kind of experience where I get really excited about certain people, but I also can very much see the human side of them now. And it's a blessing and also kind of a curse because it kind of takes the excitement out of it a little bit.
That's actually a really interesting point of view too, where you're like, they really are just people.
Yeah.
So you weren't like, want to throw up with Kim Kardashian?
Well, I mean... Like, I was like, what? Like, it was just crazy to me.
Yeah, and I think I also know what you're saying in terms of like, yeah, like they liked it and that's really exciting. But at the end of the day, it's still like your work that was the exciting part. And I think maybe people are like, Kim Kardashian messaged you. And you're like, yeah, but like I created this really beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Do you feel like when you kind of say celebrities, it kind of, you feel like it kind of outshines or tries to like diminish your work that you put into it?
No, I think it's cool. And especially when like a John Mayer, who I think is one of like the best songwriters ever, is listening to the words that I'm writing being like, great words. I'm like, all right, like I guess I'm good at this. Yeah. Like, you know, things like that. And I just think it's cool. And it also like Chrissy Teigen, I don't really actually like, we've talked that one time, but I think she changed my life. Like she put my thing on her story and that's like when everything started. Like I'm just grateful that she did that because she gave me this crazy amount of like this space for people to see and hear. And it started this whole new world for me that I never expected. My life is on its head right now in comparison to where it was before Christmas. And I like obviously think that it's because of me, but I really think it's a lot because of her.
That's cool. And here's something that I also, as we're kind of chatting, I realize might really translate to someone who like might not be on Instagram, right? Whereas like the CEO of the company you're working for is also just a person.
Yes.
Right? We don't need to put them on a pedestal. And if you have a meeting with them, you're allowed to be like, hey, you're actually just a person as well. We don't have to like hierarch people all the time.
That's the thing. And I think also though, when you have a higher position in life, you start to kind of have just a way about you and a way that you feel like you're allowed to treat people. And like there's not a different way that you get to treat people because you're a certain level of person. And that's why I find it funny. And I feel like just being, again, in media, talking to people all the time has kind of desensitized my view. I would do really bad in the corporate world, I feel.
But I don't think so because when I work with a lot of like CEOs, big VPs, I work with them as clients and I also work with them just when I'm in meetings. Yeah. And I remember when I was like first out of university, I like wanted to throw up like meeting like the VP and I thought this was such a big deal. But what I do is I really start like realizing that they actually are people. And I think about like, how do they greet their dog when they get home?
Yes.
Like they're not like, hello, this is an important message.
No, they're like, don't act like you don't yell at your wife when she shops too much. Like I know that you're not out here being a perfect man at home. And same with like women. I'm like, you tried on 9 skirts this morning. Why am I going to be intimidated by that one? I'm like, we should all just get along with each other, help each other out. Obviously, there's like a level of professionalism that you should keep when you're in a working environment. But I'm like...
And when you realize that people who societally are perceived to be, again, in charge, whether it's like socially like Kim Kardashian or again, financially like your boss, recognizing that everybody is just people. That's actually a really good kind of lesson in confidence of being like, when you're meeting somebody who you are intimidated by or excited by or intrigued by, remember that they are just a person.
They're just a person. And I do think that there's a level of respect that you're allowed to have that you might not have for a random person. Like maybe for the CEO of your company, you look at them and say, hey, ma'am, you've been here for 30 years. You worked your butt off. You make a lot of money now. You came up from nothing and you have a really difficult job and I respect you. But that doesn't mean I have to be scared of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the second theme I want to talk about is like relationships. So you have a great partner and you post a lot about him and that's very exciting.
He's like, you don't post me very much though. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I actually don't anymore. Like I need to.
Do you not? I just see your stories.
I just don't do as much personal life stuff anymore. So I used to like post on my story every day. And now I'm like, I can't post you today. I have to post a poem.
Tell me about like relationships. And I think your poems are so interesting because they often will even like correlate like your current relationship and kind of your last one and how you can both be in love with your relationship and be nostalgic for one previously. What does that kind of look like for you, and how are you able to really like sit with like your different relationships and like process them in that way?
I think this goes back to my I love the past thing, and Steve is my partner. He knows that, and he knows about everybody. I've told him like sometimes I tell him stories and he goes, please stop with the details. I don't want to know about this. But like which I sometimes think, I wonder if he hears a poem and goes, I think that might be about him. You know, like he's very understanding. And I've had people ask that question before too, being like, does he hate this? Because I'll be like, babe, listen to this. It's like, I was crying in the back of the taxi on the way to your apartment. He's like, I've never known you while I have an apartment. Why are you crying in a cab? Why are you so drunk with your friends? Like, it just situations that don't pertain to him at all. But he's able to push it to the side. And then sometimes he'll see something and be like, we good? And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not going to post something on the internet about you before you know that I'm upset about it. But it is interesting because I am in a very healthy relationship right now. Like, it's like unrecognizably healthy for me. I'm like, I struggle with it even because I'm like, wait, hold on. No, what about the guys in the poem?
The day I didn't love you anymore was a day I couldn't name if I tried. I don't know when it happened because there wasn't an earthquake where all the photos of us fell off the walls of my brain and shattered on the floor. There wasn't a tsunami that came over me and drowned you out, taking your breath out of my lungs and giving mine back to me. I didn't get struck by lightning and wake up in an alternate universe where you never existed like in the movies. The day I didn't love you anymore wasn't monumental. It was so lackluster I didn't even know what was happening. But I know for sure it happened. I wonder if I got groceries that day, or if I listened to a song that opened a portal for my heart to heal just enough. I wonder if it was sunny and warm or cold and gray. I wonder which outfit I put on that morning, or if I got enough sleep the night before. I wonder if I thought of you at all. If I drove by a place we used to go or laughed at something we'd have laughed at. But that time the feeling just passed me by like a neighbor in a rush. A friendly wave and a smile that never gets thought of again. Instead of lingering like the fixation of a book you love that doesn't have a sequel. Or a heat wave or a bad cough. The day I didn't love you anymore is a day I never thought would come. And a day that has already passed. And I know there is an accumulation of days to thank. A group project where not everyone did equal parts and some days slacked in superior ways when it came to falling out of love with you, but there was one day where my heart signed the dotted line and my love for you officially came to a close and there were no witnesses. And I will never know what day it was, but I know for sure it happened.
I think a lot of girls, women, have an issue with when they're treated right, that it feels
wrong.
Yeah. Tell me more.
Well, first of all, I say this all the time. I love being sad. It's like my favorite feeling. I don't know why. It's not like a scary thing. It's just, I very much enjoy the feeling of it. I love when it rains. Love when it's cold. I love being sad. And I love that I've been through all that stuff. I love that I was with guys who like set the bar. And my mom always said that you never really go lower than the last one. Even if it's not that much of a difference, there's usually things that you won't take in the next one. And you just kind of like notch up. And I love that the bar started low and now it's really high. And I always say, like, nobody ever knows for sure if a relationship's going to work out. Like, nobody can know. You can be married in the happiest relationship ever and fall out of love 10 years later. But at least if your bar is here, you know the next time it's going to be here, which is great. So I love the low bar guys because they've given me a lot of content. And
also, you know, we have to make that a real thing. The low bar guys.
It's
like,
the low bar
hey,
guys.
Like you go on a date, you're like, you're a great low bar guy. I really
you're
want to
my
add you to
lowest
my
bar.
to my rung.
But I'm picturing faces on like the bar like holders. You know when horses jump?
Yeah.
There's like men's faces on either side where they're hanging the poles. And I just love the low bar guys because they've given me content and they've also made me feel so many things. And for some reason, I like miss those situations and those crappy times and crying over them. Like I miss that sometimes because it was just like being young and that's part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other side of it is that often those like butterflies we get are actually a fight or flight response.
I've heard that. That's
telling
crazy.
us to like either fight, flight, freeze. And we're like, oh, this feels exciting because it just feels like foreign when you're just actually nervous. So it's interesting to kind of like, just like analyze that. And sometimes like, and you have to figure out, again, very similar to conflict, you have to figure out what your goals are. Like define what you want a relationship to look like, because that might look really different. Maybe you want to have a relationship that is like really hands-on and you cuddle every night.
Yeah.
And maybe you want a relationship that you're totally okay with them working away for a month, right?
But the problem is that sometimes you will think that what you want is just what you've had. So you'll be like, I want a relationship where I don't know if he loves me. No, you don't. You're just used to it. Like, and if that's all you've had, that's what you think you want, but it's only just what you know.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to be open to like knowing what you need versus what you like want. Or
And that's
miss.
what I was going to ask. Like, if you're kind of at that point where you're like, well, like, I kind of like the feeling of like not knowing if I'm being loved. I've been told like, well, like I like fighting because then we feel something. How did you kind of decide to kind of get to that next rung?
I didn't really have a choice. Like I didn't have to like ask Steve to do it. Like he just was like, hey, I like you. Hey, I'll see you again. Hey, let's see each other again. Hey, I love you. Hey, I want to spend my life with you. Hey, move into my house. Hey, let's get married. Like, I'm like, I didn't have to ask him. He just did it. So I didn't really get a choice in it because I wasn't begging for it anymore. It just like, he was giving me everything that I was like literally begging on my knees for in every other situation I've ever been in. So I was just kind of confused and I'm still kind of like, wait, what? Like, where did my apartment go? Where's my old car? Where's my old life? Like, we have a dog. This is crazy. Like, sometimes I literally have moments where I'm like, this makes no sense.
And I'm so happy that you're at the point where like, you're like, I can actually accept love. Like that's a really exciting place to be.
Yeah.
I see your face. Do you feel like you're there?
Yeah. I just think it's funny because now I'm so confident in it. Because before I would just tiptoe around feelings and be like, I don't want to upset him. Like, I don't want him to leave me. And I'm like, you said that sentence on the phone earlier, really annoying. And I don't like that. And I've pushed him to so many edges that I know he's never going to leave me. And now I'm like, just like I said earlier, I'm not confident in anything. I'm actually very confident in my relationship because I just know that like we're in it. Like I know that we can say whatever we're feeling and we're going to forgive each other. So
yeah. Now I have a question. I have maybe it's not even a hot take, but I think that love and lust are very different things. Yeah. I think that lust of feeling is like that feeling. And I think love is a choice. Do you agree? Do you disagree?
No, I completely agree. I think that like, as this is going to make love sound like so unromantic, I feel like you and anybody could love each other if you worked hard enough.
And maybe love is allowed to be like less romantic than our society has made it out to be. Maybe it's allowed to be something just like really beautiful and comfortable. And then the low bar guys, we can think back and have like those like crazy feelings about them.
But like it's so like love is so weird like that because there's literally nobody on the planet that you could see in your house, in your face, in your kitchen, like just talking so much. Like we just both talk like every day. Every single day. And then you'll find yourself like out for dinner with nothing to say. And you're like, oh, is this bad? Like, no, you're literally together 24/7. Name one friend of yours that you wouldn't kill if they lived in your house all the time. Like, it's normal to have those conflicts. It's normal to have moments where you're like, I'd rather actually just sit here with you and not say anything after the day that I had. Like, and I think that people put so much pressure on relationships to be the same as your friendships, to give you every little thing that you have. But I feel like we just have all these like little soulmates in little pockets of our lives, and your relationship has so many purposes, but it's not all of them. They can't fill every single part of you.
Yeah. And this is actually a perfect transition into kind of the
Right?
third piece that I see. It's like you did it on purpose. Is that friendships. And so a lot of your poems are like, these are some of the loves of my lives. And just because they're not romantic doesn't mean they're not like some of the biggest relationships we have.
We were girls together. Do you know how special that is? We talked all night about falling in love, but that was the love story. We were already in it. Being girls with you was the greatest joy of my life. Anyone who has loved me after you has loved us. Girlhood is a part of the foundation of every version of me I've ever been, and every version I ever will be. And so are you. Because we were girls together.
I know my biggest heartbreak was not with a man. It was with one of my best friends. That is my biggest heartbreak that I will still feel. When we talk about friendships, how do you think friendships have increased your confidence?
It's funny. There's like kind of a joke at home where I'll like say something really nice about one of my friends and Steve will go, you love girlhood. You love your girlfriends. Like, and I don't even know what I would do if I didn't have my friends. There's been so many different ones, not all at the same time. There's like ones that have passed and ones that are like there forever and ones that serve their purpose in the moment that we serve for each other. And I have found myself in so many ways in all these different friendships, like, because you learn things about yourself and then you keep those things with you forever, even as those friends go. And not all friends go, but sometimes you just like have your moment. And I just like remember being in high school and being lacking so much confidence and always knowing that like the only confidence and like stand up for myself moment that I was going to find was not going to be my own voice. It was going to be one of theirs. And that was what I needed. And I am still friends with all those people. Went to college. I found the same thing. Like, I feel like it was just people kind of who were there to stand up for me that I would defend forever, that I'll be friends with forever. And then there's friends that I had for like a couple years. I remember one of my friends was like, you don't ask me enough questions. And now I'm always thinking about that. Like, I was like, oh, never made that mistake with her again. Sometimes I have ADHD, so I'll fall into it. But I think of Ashley, there's so many Ashleys, all the time. And I'm like, oh yeah. You know, and like, even if that was the one thing that I think, like, I ask people more questions because I was friends with Ashley, you know, and like, I know how to curl my hair properly because I was friends with this girl. And like, I know actually not to trust people sometimes because of this girl. And like, it's just, you find yourself in these girls or boys or men or whoever you're friends with. And then you never lose those parts that you find.
Yeah. And I think our society puts so much emphasis on romantic relationships, right? I want to kind of go back to that we don't respect our platonic friendships as much sometimes. And I think your poetry really kind of makes that stand out. I know when you put that poem that exactly kind of like you said, this girl taught me how to curl my hair. I think about that all the time. Like, without this friend, I wouldn't have been able to do X, Y, Z. I think that's just such a beautiful piece in just your whole life and everyone's whole lives and your confidence.
Yeah, thinking about the things that you know and the things that you know, like, about life and about yourself because your friend told you, like, they echo with you forever. And I think it's also important to note that, like, your friends are at home putting on a lip combo, being like, I do this because Josie told me about it, even though I don't talk to her anymore. And that, like, you just kind of live on with those people always, like, even if you're just friends for a moment. But, like, I find different needs being met in all of my friends, and I am a different friend to all of my friends. Like,
that's a really interesting thing too. I know that, like, a lot of people that I've talked to are like afraid of, like, well, I don't want to like change for everybody, but maybe that's okay. And it's not like you have to change your values, but we can, you know, with one friend maybe we're a little bit more bubbly, with another friend maybe we're a little bit more athletic, with another friend, and they serve different purposes, the people in our lives.
Well, yeah, some people like actually need truth from you, and some people need a soft, like, I need friends to, for most of the time, be like, no, it's fine, you're fine, nothing to worry about, all good. Even if I made the biggest mistake, they're like, no, that's fine that you did that. Like,
and then when you have that one moment where you're like, okay,
yeah,
I actually need someone to like kick my butt a little bit.
Exactly.
You're gonna go to that one friend who you know is gonna be like, you're being an idiot.
Exactly. But you know which friend to go to, and I actually try to be that bubble friend. If my boyfriend listens to this, he's going to be like, why aren't you this for me? You always tell me what I'm doing wrong. But any of my friends that come to me with anything, I always take the route of, that's fine. Why do you think you did that? Like, hey, if you're going to be doing that, maybe it's because of this. It's okay that you did it though. Like you can forgive yourself on that. Like just never, I personally take the route of never being the friend that goes, why would you do that? Steve's going to hate this. He's going to be like, what? Since when? That was a big mistake. You shouldn't have done that. But I'm like, easy.
And that's the thing is like different
place.
relationships can mean something so different and can have different boundaries and different rules. And that's okay.
Yeah.
And I think we forget to allow ourselves that, not just that grace, but allow ourselves to know that like we're allowed to have those different relationships.
Oh yeah. And I think something also that really like makes me feel good and that I forget sometimes if you're having a day where you're like, I'm kind of useless. It doesn't matter. If you think about all the people that matter to you in your life, like you matter to that many people. Like that many people think of you randomly through the day being like, oh, that was really funny when she did that. Or like, oh, that, like she made me feel better about that. Or, oh, I'm remembering this one time 5 years ago, I missed that part of my life and she was there. Like people are thinking about you all the time in a good way, like good thoughts, not like that dumb thing you said or that one time you drank too much, like the time you made them feel really good.
And how many times are we focused on like, oh, I shouldn't have said that in a meeting.
Yeah.
And then we ruminate on it for weeks, months, and like we sit with it. What if we started thinking about like the positive things that we have done and the positive way that we have made people feel?
Yeah.
What if we just once, you know, you have that feeling of I shouldn't have said that and you just flip it to be like, but this was really awesome that I did.
I can't, like, there's maybe like one or two, maybe three, like extremely offensive things that people have walked away from me after they said that I'm like, why would you say that, you idiot? Like, but like after, like outside from that, I can't remember a single thing where somebody was like, you too, after I said have a good movie or whatever and I'm working at the movie theater. Like, I don't know, I just don't care, you know? And nobody cares. Nobody cares.
Nobody cares
About you, except for your friends.
Except for people, yeah, people care about you.
Yeah.
But no one cares about you.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go back to you. And so you had like quite a few poems go like beautifully viral.
Beautifully viral, I like that.
Beautifully viral.
Nice.
Because there's some times that you can go negatively viral. Because yeah, sometimes things go viral that just like kind of feel yucky. Because again, the Instagram, TikTok can be a yucky
things,
place
yeah.
sometimes. But I think that you, went beautifully viral. And then you got a book deal.
Yeah, I did. Crazy.
How did that feel when all of a sudden you're like, because how long from your first posting of your first poem to a book deal? How long was that?
My first offer was like a month in.
No, I know.
And then I didn't take it, which I was actually really proud of because if you're listening to this and you're like me, I'm like, yep, first option, let's get it. And for you know what? This poetry thing has really taught me to like listen to myself and trust myself. And every move I've made has actually worked really well. And I'm trying to figure out a way to say this in a way that doesn't take forever. But one of my friends was kind of joking because he was like, you were like, I'm going to buy a professional microphone. And I was like, get it, girl. And then you're like, I'm going to do voiceover. And then I was like, cool. And then you were like, I'm going to set my closet up to be a voiceover artist. And then suddenly you were like, I'm going to post a poem. And then you were like, oh my God, the poem went viral. I'm going to do another one. And then you're like, I have a book deal. And he was like, this thing that had nothing to do with anything launched you into this whole other world of like all these opportunities because you just were like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And it's just been crazy. But the book part was like a cool experience. And I actually was going to do that publishing deal the first time. And then I was like, no, I won't do it. And then I was going to self-publish it on Amazon. And then I had this one girl, Kelly, reach out to me. And she's a book agent. She's like, give me 10 minutes. She's like, let me just explain to you why you shouldn't do that on your own. And I was like, I got on the phone with her and I was like, I'm just going to tell you right now, I'm really set in my ways. I've already made my decision. It's already written. I'm good to go. I have a cover. I'm like not going to listen to you. And after 10 minutes, I was like, you're my agent. We're doing this together. We're going the classic publishing route. She got me a book deal in 2 weeks. Crazy.
And that's a really good example of people will support you. People want to support you, and we have to remember that too. It's not, you're not always by yourself. People want to support you. But you also have to find the right people, and you have to find like what actually aligns with your values and like your what your goals are.
I hate asking people to help me with things. Very independent. Grew up just in a house with my mom. She did everything. So I'm like, I'll do this. I'll do this. I got this. I'll plan this. Like don't even waste my time letting me down. I'll do it. But I've learned recently that there's actually like a lot of people out there who are really good at stuff that I'm not good at. And asking for help, and a lot of time you have to pay people to help you, but asking for help in realms of things that you are like bad at and someone else is good at is really good. And I don't remember where I heard this. It might have been on Mel Robbins' podcast, but it was like A tasks, B tasks, and C tasks. And your A tasks are what you enjoy. And often your C task is actually somebody's A. So if you just flip-flop, you can help each other all the time. You just have to be willing to ask.
Yeah. And I actually think a version of confidence, what you want to define it as, and that definition is asking for help.
Oh, yeah.
And being okay to ask for help and knowing that you're actually allowed to ask for help. That can
Absolutely.
be a really, really hard thing for people to do. So you get this book deal, exciting. It goes, tell me, and again, in like months, how did you maintain it when I see that face? Or did you? What did your confidence look like when you're like, okay, I'm now going to be a published author and I've never done this. How do I fill in the gaps? What did that look like?
Confidence is low at all times. Like it's weird to say because there's been so much success, but like I was saying to one of my friends the other day, I was like, I want to redo my studio. I was like, but I don't know if there's a point in spending all this money on it since this is just temporary. And she was like, why? Like, no, it's not. Just don't let it be. Just don't stop. And I was like, no, this is just for now. This is just a this year thing. 2025, back to normal. Like that was just how my brain is set, right? And even with like posting, if something doesn't do as well now, my standards are like, because when you succeed, your standards go up for yourself, right? And then suddenly you start to think that things are failures that you once would have thought were like the biggest success. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to not think of something as a failure and not put yourself in your shoes 6 months ago and be like, that would have been a life-changing thing.
And sometimes we forget to do that, right? I saw a quote, I forget who it's by, but we are right now living in a version of our dreams that like 5 years ago we wish we were living in.
Don't say that to me.
Is that your new poem? You're welcome. No, but like we're living in a version of a dream, mm-hmm. right? Like at one point we wished that we were here. At one point you wished you were in this like really beautiful, healthy relationship.
Yes.
Right?
Every single time I went out with a bad person, I shouldn't say that, with someone who didn't care about me in the way that I wanted them to, it was hoping that maybe the next day their mind would change and they would start treating me like Steve does. That's all I wanted. I think I just wanted to be the one to turn somebody's mind into it. It was just like way less climactic because he just did it without me asking, which is annoying. I was like, let me beg you for it. Yeah. But it's just a matter of looking at your achievements and being like, this is what I wanted. But it's really hard to do because now this book's coming out. And at first I was like, whoa. And then I was like, what if this is my only book ever? What if this was my last thing that I post that anybody ever cares about? What if I post one and people actually hate it and it's awful and everybody is like, nope, we're done with her. Like, you know?
Now what if it isn't your last book?
I literally wrote a poem that's like, what if the plane lands safely? What if
there are things that are good? Because those what ifs are equally, probably
exactly
more likely to happen.
I literally have a poem exactly about this being like, what if? And I list off all the positive things that you usually think are going to be negative. And again, it's like, but not for me. Just for you.
Just for you. But that is an exercise that I love. It's like when you have that what if, just flipping it. Again, we don't have to say like, I'm going to be amazing. But like, what if it works?
Did you see that? Is a trend on TikTok, but it's like a mom and a kid thing where you're like, I went to the store and there was no more broccoli. And then the kid has to counter it with a positive, but there was cauliflower. And she's like, but I hate cauliflower. But luckily, all of the sentences of the kid have to start with, but luckily.
And we're just not taught this.
No, we don't.
Like we're not taught this. We were you and I were in the generation of, remember that Jessica Simpson when like the whole society was like, she's gained so much weight. Yeah. And we were like, ew. Do you remember thinking that?
Jessica Simpson, I loved her. Yeah, but I remember like seeing magazines like with like her belly out and I was like, ew, Jessica.
No, for real.
Like, because society's telling you that. But Jessica Simpson,
this is like the crazy, the insane asylum. We'll quote Taylor again.
She had a line of edible perfumes, I have to tell this, that came out when I was like 8, which they're like obviously for like fun.
Did you drink them?
Oh yeah. I was like spraying them on my hands like sour candy and like licking it off my own wrist. And my mom was
you're like, great, love this for you.
I was like asking for a new one all the time because I was like,
she's like Googling, is it normal for your kid to drink?
Anyways, that's what she reminds me of. But yes,
so
I remember
fun.
that.
Yeah, I remember that, right? We weren't taught, and I don't think a lot of generations are taught, right? Whether it's you have the media or whether you have other people doing things. So a question that I always have, I'm so interested to know, you're public facing, you put your beautiful thoughts out. How do you feel like you balance your own authentic thoughts versus like what people want to hear?
I actually struggle with this a lot lately because when I first started, I was like, I have no idea what's going to happen here. So I'm just going to say exactly what I'm feeling. I have no idea what anyone else is feeling. And now I think that being aware is actually really crappy sometimes. Being a very self-aware person can actually ruin your life because you're spending too much time focusing on other people's emotions and and you want to impress other people, right? And it's actually become difficult because I've found myself scrolling back being like, okay, so people really liked this topic. And I've been through it. I wrote this. I just got to think of another angle to hit it on. But I think that's also just a part of what this is. And I think that because it's writing, anything that I say or that comes from here that I feel like is true, it is authentic. It's just a matter of like, maybe the ideas aren't coming up as organically as, oh, this guy, I need to write about this experience. I already wrote about that. And I know that people really liked it. So now I have to think of another time that something happened with that guy.
I love this because I think a lot of people are like, well, in order to be authentic, I have to go against the grain. No. But maybe you don't have to. Maybe you're allowed to. I love the direction of the grain. I've always loved it. We love the grain. I just love being like everybody else. And I'm really bad at making decisions. So other people doing things really helps me know what to do. And that's like when like the basic girl came out, like, ew, you like Starbucks and you like
love Starbucks, love my Uggs.
You know, maybe that's totally okay.
Get it on me.
Maybe that's okay that you like all those things. Yep. And there's a reason why we like them is because they make people happy.
Yep.
So you love being sad.
I love being sad.
And you're in a really healthy place.
Yes.
So do you ever feel like you're gonna or want to kind of self-sabotage to like have that sad content?
I find that I'll sometimes like tell my friends about an argument that we had and they'll be like, whoa, you're being a nut job. Like, why would you even be mad about that? And I'm like, I just needed to say something. And they're like, I think you just needed to fight. Like, I think you just needed to feel like there was a problem when there's not one. But I also feel like I have a lot of banked footage in my head that I can go back to and be sad about. Like, I sit in the bathroom and I'm like, remember that one time? I'll remember the weather. I'll be like I remember the apartment. I remember the thing he said. I'm like, wow, that made me so sad. I love it.
But how beautiful is that emotion, right? And I think we always like are trying to be happy. Be happy. Do everything you can to be happy. But we're allowed to be sad because we're multidimensional people and we're supposed to have all these different feelings.
And I think that that's kind of the fun thing. And I remember going through a breakup that was so good, like healthy. Like we're still friends. He was the best. Like I talk like so highly of him. My boyfriend's like, we would have beers with him if he lived here. And I'm like, I remember us breaking up and me being like, nothing toxic. This just wasn't working anymore. He's moving, whatever. And then I was like, but I'm allowed to be so sad, even though neither of us wanted this anymore. I'm so sad, and that's allowed. And I was just like, okay, I'm going to be sad now. And then I think about that too. Sometimes I'm like, so sad. But
do you do this where like you're in the car and you like romanticize it? Like you're in a movie.
Yeah.
And it's like, if the rain's coming down, let the rain fall down.
You should see how I looked at the forecast for next week. I was like, it's going to rain? This is amazing. Yes. I can't wait to be sad all week. It's my favorite. But no, I just like, I feel bad too because writing about sad things is so much easier than writing about happy things. So I very rarely will have like a love note for Steve. But if he marries me, I'll give him some pretty good vows.
Great. I know
the happiest vows.
I know you will.
Yeah.
Book's going to come out. We're going to be doing more poetry. What else do you want to be doing? What's the next thing for you?
Oh my gosh. I started a podcast and I feel like with my background in broadcasting and stuff, I would actually really like to figure it out, get a good setup like this and like get it out there because I really want that. But I don't know. I feel like I just really like I like what's happening right now.
And sometimes it's really okay to take the next best step. Like you've discussed has really worked for you.
Yeah.
Taking that next step that feels right.
Sometimes it's just like I'm like, maybe I should get organized. I should start folders and I should start going through and figuring out what people like and then writing more on certain days. And then I'm like, what you've been doing is actually working.
Yeah.
So right now, I think my next step is to like feel comfortable in this thing that happened because I don't yet. I'm confused still.
Yeah.
To believe it and then to like keep doing it.
Yeah. You got this. And we're so excited to continue to watch
Thanks.
what happens with you. Now, What is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Oh God.
Specifically around your confidence.
I don't know if this is advice, but I use it all the time, and I realize how true it is all the time. And it's just that like comparison will always steal your joy, always, no matter what. Seeing what's going on in anybody else's life, even if it's worse than yours, is going to make you feel sad. You're going to see somebody else's life and say, I wish that wasn't their life. Now I feel sad. You're going to see somebody else's life saying, I wish that was my life. Now I feel like I don't have enough. Somebody's life that looks like yours, you'll look at it and go, I don't know if I like how that looks. And that's how my life is. I hate that. Like, there's never going to be a time where you compare and you feel better, ever. Like, even if you're comparing you to you. If I look back at photos from like a month ago, I'll be like, what? I look so much better then. It was like 30 days ago. I don't comparison, and it may not be like this for everybody. All I ever do is compare, and it always makes me sad. Comparison is a thief of joy.
Period.
Always.
What is the worst piece of advice you've ever received?
Oh God, this is so hard. The first thing that comes to mind is, I just remember this so vividly. And it was like at the beginning of when I wanted to start losing weight, and I was at a very unhealthy place in my life. I could barely walk up a flight of stairs. That was why I did it. I was 19 and I couldn't go to the mall without really struggling to keep up with my friends. And I remember telling this guy that worked at the office that I was working at the time about it. And he told me that there's not really a point in me doing it because I was always going to look like I used to look like that. And I remember going into the bathroom and crying and being like, well, then there's no point in starting. And I think just anybody who's ever oh, there's no point in getting started on that because XYZ, that's bad advice. That's the worst advice you could ever give anybody. Never tell anyone there's no point in doing what they think of, unless it's a bad thing that they're going to do. If they're going to try something really messed up, be like, yeah, I don't know. But
just get started.
Just get started. Just try it.
We'll see you back one day soon, I am sure.
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Mwah. Disclaimer. This podcast is designed for entertainment purposes only and should not be considered as professional advice. Always consult with relevant experts or professionals for personalized guidance.